Hello, I'd like to introduce you to a project we've been working on this summer, which is to create a labyrinth in the vicarage garden, and we've actually mown it in the grass on the front lawn. Labyrinths were the subject of my study during my sabbatical last year, and I was able to walk several different ones, so I thought it would be nice for the parish to have the opportunity to use labyrinths for prayer walks. Labyrinths are not new, although there's been a big resurgence in their use since the 1990s. Labyrinths have been around for about 4,000 years of human history, and we have evidence of them scattered around the Mediterranean, in southern Europe and North Africa. Some of them dating from about 2000 BCE. There are also Roman labyrinths, mostly in mosaic floors, some of them here in Britain. There's one up in Yorkshire, I believe, and one in South Wales as well, formed in mosaic tiles in a Roman pavement. There was a big resurgence of labyrinth building in medieval times, and the most famous labyrinth of all was built in the floor of Chartres Cathedral in 1201. So last year, my daughter and I walked the labyrinth in Chartres and another one in Amiens cathedrals, and it's interesting to see their placing because they were built in from the start of the building of the cathedral in a kind of sacred geometry, so that if you fold down, as if you could, the west front of the cathedral, the rose window in the west front would actually sit on the labyrinth. So it was all kind of scaled into the building of the cathedral. And as I said, there's been a big resurgence since the 1990s. So there are quite a few labyrinths now in colleges and universities, in town squares, deserted headlands around the country, in all sorts of places, and quite often in retreat centres. Because labyrinths have been used for many, many years by people of all faiths and none. Labyrinth walking has been part of our Christian faith for many years, as well as Buddhism, Islam. Jewish people use labyrinths, Hindus, Sikhs, Baha'i. They're very, very widely used, and they're also used for mindfulness as well as not for faith communities, but just as a means of stilling our minds and our souls. So what is a labyrinth? Well, it's a winding path basically, but it's quite different from a maze, because when you go into a maze you're confronted with dead ends and constant choices of which path to take, but that's not the case with a labyrinth. When you walk a labyrinth, there is only one path, and you follow it till you reach the centre. There may be twists and turns along the way, but the one path will take you inexorably towards the centre, and having spent some time contemplating in the centre of the labyrinth, you turn around and come out again on the same path. There are various designs. What we've done here in the vicarage garden is a classical design. It's a 5-circuit labyrinth. Some of them go up to 11 circuits. The one at Chartres is more complex, with 4 quadrants as you go round, and some of them have kind of curly bastions on the corner. There's a magnificent labyrinth in Saffron Walden on the Common, which has the 4 quadrants in it and 4 bastions on the corners, and it's actually a 2-mile walk to get in and out of that labyrinth. This one is a lot lighter weight than that. It won't take you long. So, how do we use it? Well, that varies really. Some people might just use it to take a bit of exercise, just to go for a very peaceful walk, and that is absolutely fine. There's no prescriptive way of using a labyrinth. I think the most important thing is just to keep your mind open to the experience, not to go into it with any particular intention, but just to allow the rhythmic pattern of walking to be a meditation in itself, And people say that when you set up a slow rhythmic pattern of walking, following the path, that occupies your left brain, freeing up your right brain to have more creative and imaginative thought. So, several times when I've been walking, I've gone into the labyrinth with no particular intention, just to be very present in the moment. And sometimes nothing happens, it's just a nice walk, but sometimes you get a little glimpse, maybe a little bit of inspiration about how to handle a particular problem or what turn your life happens to be taking at the moment. So the important thing is just to set up a rhythmic pattern of walking, to make it a meditative experience, to be open to the experience and follow the path. Just to be present in creation and realise our oneness with it. I think human beings for many, many years have seen a journey as a metaphor for our lives. So quite often when you walk the labyrinth, you might find yourself reflecting upon your own journey of life. Sometimes it's clear which direction to go in. Sometimes there are twists and turns that you weren't expecting, and sometimes the way is not entirely clear. But the important thing is just to allow it to still your heart and your mind and let God speak to you. I do hope you will come and use the labyrinth here. I will make available some prayer guides. Over and above what I've just said, you can use it for all sorts of different intentions, as a way of laying down a particular burden or of praying for somebody. So I can make some of those prayer guides available. The front garden at the vicarage is entirely open, so I would suggest if you're out taking your daily exercise, just come along. There's a seat beside the labyrinth. Just settle yourself and walk it and see what happens. Of course, be aware of social distancing. The paths are about 18 inches wide, so you can't have too many people walking it at the same time if you're not from the same household. But please do use it freely, and I hope you enjoy it.